Hello everyone. Welcome to another month on our beautiful healing journey. This month we're going to talk about mindful awareness or mindful living. And there are so much information out there on mindfulness, and it's become a kind of a buzzword. But I still wanted to talk about mindfulness and more in terms of mindful living and mindful awareness, because I think it is something really important for us on our journey, and it will really help us along to be more focused and more inward looking. Over the years that I've studied and practiced this idea of mindfulness, I've come to realize that it really is a very old concept. It's not a new thing. All these old texts and teachings from as far back as the Buddha focus on this awareness, being aware of who we are, being aware of where we are, of ourselves, of our world around us. All of that is basically mindfulness as we call it today. So I think for me, what makes mindfulness important and why it's so important to be aware, this awareness, is it helps us to understand and to learn to accept ourselves. Yeah. And that way it gives us like a way to turn inward and reconnect with ourselves, reconnect with our thoughts, our beliefs of who we are. With our daily lives, we have so many things that distract us. And often these things make us feel unsatisfied or disconnected. And so it leads to us feeling drained and exhausted, and we might not even notice the things around us that are beautiful in our lives, or what the world has to offer us in general, because we're so into this. We feel so drained and exhausted, right, from these distractions. An example, we might be sitting in the park and the birds are singing and dogs are running around happily, but we don't notice a thing of it because we are either distracted by our thoughts. We might be angry or anxious about something or worrying, and it just keeps on turning in our head, or we might be staring at our mobile phones. And here we are in this beautiful park, but we're not really there. We're not connecting to the space around us. We're not connecting to our body, to our mind in that moment. And when that happens, it often leads us to feel dissatisfied with our lives, and we feel pain, and because we basically cut ourselves off from the life around us and cut ourselves off from our own insides, if that makes sense. Yeah. And so what happens is we start to look for things outside of ourselves. And often these things lead to more pain. So we might go shopping and buy some stuff, or we might try and find the perfect partner. Everything to just make us feel better. There's nothing wrong with buying stuff, and there's nothing wrong with being in a relationship. But I think that if we use these things so that we can feel better about ourselves, or that it can numb something, that pain inside of us or worries us, then maybe we need to relook at it a little bit and find different ways of approaching this, dealing with our pain. And the way we can do that is by becoming more silent, more still, and more open. which will help us to observe and feel where we are at that moment. Because what happens as well is we identify so strongly with our emotions and with our pain, with our dissatisfaction. We say, I'm so sad, or I'm so anxious, or you hurt me so badly. And those are the things that we identify with. And those create these feelings inside of us of anger, dissatisfaction, pain. And if we can maybe figure out a way where we can pay more attention to these feelings without, telling stories about them. Yeah, like we have these voices in our head that tells us things like, I'm sad, I'm angry. But if we can learn to pay attention to these voices and become aware of these voices, it can help us along this journey of ours. I mean, it sounds simple and easy. Just, become aware of the painful feelings. Not identifying with them, not identifying with that anxiety, and not adding a story to it. Just to be aware of these feelings, be aware of the stories in your head, be aware of that pain and the anger. That it's a thing, it's not who you are, it's just something that you're feeling. And when you start to do that, you find yourself becoming more still. Yeah, it just stops this thing from growing and expanding into something that's really big and painful and uncomfortable. So when you turn your attention inwards, you may start to notice some competing voices. Yeah, all of these voices are telling you stories, and you try to turn away from them. Most of the time, we don't listen to this silence inside of us. We listen to the thoughts. We plan things, we argue in our heads, or we distract ourselves in order to push something out of our minds. And all of this is just, we're creating just more noise in our head. And we don't really need to focus on that. We don't need to focus on the noise. All we need to do is to find the silence and the stillness in between those thoughts. Yeah, you don't reject the thought. You don't control the thought. You don't stop the thought or empty your mind. You allow the thought to be there. You are being a host to it, but you don't chase after it. You don't give it any fuel. Yeah, because if you reject that thought, right, then it's another thought that comes up. And it says, oh, yeah, I outsmarted that thought, look, I'm doing really well. So then there's another thought, and then you go off into another story. So simply observe. It's really as simple as that. You simply observe the thought without adding any story or any understanding or any explanation or any judgment. It's just there. You're just aware of it. Simple awareness. When you get angry, you simply aware of that anger. You're aware of it in your body. You feel that anger. Just be open to it. But you don't say, I am angry because X, Y, Z. You don't even say, I am angry. You just feel the feeling in your body. You will feel it somewhere in your body. Often when we're angry, we either feel it in our bellies, like at our solar plexus areas, there between the ribs. We feel it there. or we feel it in our face, our skin, it gets hot, and that's what you observe. You observe the feelings that you have, the sensations of it. But you don't need to call it a name. You don't need to tell a story about it. You just observe that in simple awareness. There are really no rules here. There are no, it sounds like I'm giving you steps, but there isn't really any steps. You will find your own way through this. And when you begin to focus on these feelings inside, these sensations, you will find that there is a certain stillness and silence and an openness that begins to form inside of you, and you become aware. You become more aware of yourself, of your own pains, of the pains of the world around you, and you might start to experience compassion, even possibly an understanding of why we are how we are. And when this starts to happen, that is when you start to rest in this mindful awareness, in this mindful living. It takes time and practice to get to the point where something can happen. Somebody does something, and in the past you might have reacted in a specific way. But with this practice of becoming still and silent and open to those feelings that you feel, those thoughts, those emotions, and just by not telling the story around them, and just by focusing on the sensations that they cause or result in your body from those emotions that you may feel, you will find that you will become more aware of the world around you. You will become more aware of your own space within it, and you open to connections that you would not have previously been open to. You notice things in yourself, and you become more kind to yourself and more compassionate to yourself. Like I say, it takes time, but it's really simple. It's actually a very simple thing. It just takes a little bit of practice and some time. And you can create and achieve this mindful awareness that will open up your world for you. So this month, this is what we're going to be focusing on. I have a meditation exercise that is focused on mindful awareness and mindful living, and you will that is a very practical way for you to become aware of where you are. It's got a little bit more steps than what I talked about here. So if you are somebody that needs to have a little bit of more specific tips and tricks on how to become more mindfully aware, then wait for that exercise that will be coming up in the middle of the month sometime. So I wish you a wonderful, wonderful month, full of mindful practice, full of awareness, and just a gentle awakening of yourself, of where you are in your world, where you are in your body, and how you interact with yourself and with those around you.